The deadline has passed, and Donald Trump did not sign the COVID-19 relief bill. Now, I don't know exactly what happens next, but many people are saying that unemployment benefits are going to end, and many people are now going to be left holding an empty bag. $600 was better than nothing, they say. Well, Trump said he would not sign this unless the payments were increased to $2,000 and the pork was removed. Pork, for example, $10 million in Pakistani gender programs, which I can't understand why right now that's what we're proposing, but sure. What Trump really refused to sign was the omnibus spending package. And there's a really important argument about the ineffectiveness, the absurdity of Congress. Right now, you've got all of these crooked people trying to launder their money for their pet projects. And a lot of it is legitimate spending. Don't get me wrong. It's an omnibus spending package. It's not all Pakistani gender programs. But why? Why? $10 million. And then we also hear people say things like $500 million to Israel and things of that nature. And there are actual arguments for some of this foreign aid, particularly with Israel. We want them to have a strong military to protect themselves. But at a certain point, as our boat is sinking, we can't be throwing life rafts to other people saying, here, you'll need this eventually, and we don't, and then we sink and, go to our demise. Look, I think Congress is broken. I think the Democrats have been playing dirty games, and now the American people suffer for it. And I'll tell you what the real problem is. It's that Democrats rely on low information voters. It's a fact. One simple point to prove it. They tried to get they advocate for 16-year-olds to vote. Come on. No one in their right mind is going to argue that a 16-year-old is a high information voter. Now, certainly there are some 16-year-olds who are very savvy, but they just started working for the first time, a regular job, unless they worked for a family business. But the idea that a 16-year-old is going to make sound fiscal decisions when it comes to spending money, just not true. The Democrats know that their voters have no idea how this works, no idea how they're being sold out and how their wealth and their value is being stripped away from them. But don't get me wrong. Republicans voted for this thing, too, because Republicans are basically the same thing. It's the uniparty. Then you have Trump. Now, a lot of people are criticizing Trump over this because Trump's budget proposal looks a lot like the omnibus spending bill, at least in terms of some of the foreign aid that Trump himself criticized. But maybe Trump proposed the budget, and then maybe he said, we can't spend this money. I don't care. By all means, criticize the guy. The point is, we've got a serious problem right now, and the right thing is not to sign the bill, at least in my opinion. I've had critics say, Tim, you live in a giant mansion. What do you know about the struggles of regular people? They need this $600. Well, I'll be honest. It's not a bad point. I'm certainly not desperate and starving, and I absolutely need to recognize that. But I'm worried about what happens when Democratic governors, mayors, are the ones who destroyed the economy in the first place, and then tell you, I am going to steal the money out of your pocket and give you a little bit back, and you should thank me for it. And their voters are so blind how the system is working, not all of them, but many of them, that they say, yay, it's the Republicans' fault this is happening. You don't get to destroy the economy against the science, because we already saw one of the top World Health Organization doctors saying lockdowns can be avoided and should only be a last resort. And then people argue, well, what is a last resort? Do we do it now? Do we do it later? If we can avoid the lockdowns, we should, because it's going to keep happening. The lockdowns clearly didn't stop the first wave. It made a lull and then it came back. And many people say, well, it's because we eased restrictions. Okay, well then listen. If herd immunity isn't going to work, if locking down isn't going to work, then what do you propose? We lock our doors and then wither away and starve to death? I suppose that's it. What they're demanding, many of these people who are saying that the Republicans and Trump should just sign on to this, is they're demanding trillions of our dollars be stolen from our pockets, given away, not all of it, but much of it to foreign countries, much of it to ridiculous programs, to certain institutions where people already have hundreds of millions of dollars stored. I don't want to get too specific, but there are some prominent institutions that many people have pointed out are sitting on coffers of like 600 million and then demanding massive relief, a lot of the money, which will go to their executive boards and things like that. That's ridiculous. Of the 2.3 trillion, only a couple hundred billion go to the American people. So listen, I don't know what the right answer is, okay? Because I know that there are people who are saying, I don't care about any of that. Steal everything you want from me so long as I can pay my rent now. But then what? Your savings is gone. Your wages are effectively being lowered by this. So I try to explain to some friends of mine. They always talk about how we need to increase salaries for everybody. We need $15 minimum wage. I'm like, great. When you print money like crazy, like they're doing now, and then give a bunch of that away, you are devaluing the currency, effectively lowering the wages of the working class and giving your buying power away to other people. It is a massive extraction of wealth from the American people. And I tell you, man, these Democrat friends of mine, they're so obsessed. They're like, well, regular people don't have wealth. I'm like, bro, I am not saying they're wealthy. Wealth. I'm just talking about the things they own in general. Your car, your small business. You might have a small business valued in, maybe you have a hot dog stand and the total hot dog shop. The total value of the business estimated like $100K. That's destroyed. The value of that taken away. You lose your building in New York when people can't pay the bills anymore. They forced to leave and vacate the offices and their other buildings. And the city laughs. Bill de Blasio's like, now we're going to buy it up for pennies on the dollar. That's what they're doing. They are stealing from you and then dangling a tiny portion of that back in your face. Less than 10% of the money they are taking will go to you. Now, some people might argue we have to do the foreign aid, or the foreign aid is really a small percentage of the omnibus spending bill. And I'm just like, I don't care. Don't the American people come first? I get it. Some of this spending is for critical programs and infrastructure and things like that. That I get. And the defense bill, which was like 740, I think it was like 740 million, wasn't even nearly as big as a stimulus. We need national defense authorization, things like that. There's a lot of arguments we can make politically. But the question is, do we watch the whole system burn down around us because we're effectively being held hostage by Democrats, not Republicans? See, the number one trend when I started filming this was Republicans don't care. Well, I think that's true for a lot of them. Absolutely. Especially the ones who voted yes on the omnibus spending package. We are at our lowest moment. This country has been brought to its knees. Now there's people saying that China is on track to overtake the U.S. much faster than we previously thought because the lockdowns have completely decimated our country and our economy. And China isn't doing the same. So we're just falling. And that's maybe it's the back end of the bell curve for America or whatever. But we are just falling to our demise. And what do? Are we supposed to just sit here, wither away and collapse? It is not Republicans who have shut everything down. Some have. It is mostly the Democrats who did it. And then when you were at your worst, the police came in, shut down your business and allowed Hollywood, like that viral video, to set up their own business. They allowed people to go out and dance and cheer for Joe Biden. But you can't run your business. Then they come out and say, it's the Republicans' fault you're destitute. And these people just don't know or they don't care. The Republicans are bad. Yeah, a lot of them. 56 voted no on the omnibus spending bill, and they get attacked for it. The left says, see, they don't care about you. But maybe they were saying, I don't want them stealing money from your pocket. Trump came out and said, get rid of the pork, get us $2,000 to the American people. And you know what the Democrats did? Nancy Pelosi, instead of offering up a clean bill, offered up an amendment to smack Republicans in the face with a virtue signal stunt she knew would fail. And now Democratic voters blame Republicans. Y'all, you need to realize Republicans, for the most part, don't care about you, and Democrats don't care about you, and that's about it. What Nancy Pelosi did was she called for unanimous consent, meaning everybody needs to say aye or yay to support it, and anybody who objects stops it. So she offered up an amendment to increase payments to $2,000 per person with nothing to get rid of the pork and the bloat. So naturally, Republicans were like, no, we're not going to vote for that. You're nuts. You want to increase the bill from $2.3 trillion. You want to tack on another like $1.4 trillion? That's insane. And then when Republicans said no, they went, oh no, look, the Republicans are blocking us. These people are psychopaths. They don't care about you. They don't care about what you need. It is Democratic governors that destroyed the economy in many of these states. And now that you're suffering, they're saying, don't look at us. We're doing everything we can. Yeah, to strip the buying power out of our savings accounts, offer up a pittance to the American people. And then when Trump comes out and says, get them more money and get rid of this bloat, they don't. They do a virtue signal they know will fail, so they can go, oh me, oh my, the Republicans are so bad. Yeah, you know what? I think they're all bad for the most part. But I'll tell you this. There are 2 Democrats who voted no on the omnibus bill, and there are 56 Republicans who voted no. So that shows you where my bias comes from. The omnibus bill was a mistake. I'll tell you what we should do right now. When people are suffering and desperate, you got $2.3 trillion. I tell you what, it's very simple. A good amount of that money does need to go to general spending. Okay, it's an omnibus bill. So things go to legitimate programs. The foreign aid right now, nah. You've got to secure your own oxygen mask before securing the mask of others. Now, we could have a debate over providing military aid to other countries. That I get. You know, $500 million to Israel is a lot of money. But are there concerns about destabilization and potential for rising conflict if we don't meet these obligations? Perhaps. $10 million for gender studies in Pakistan. No excuse. And there's a lot of other things like that, too. Another $15 million for democracy programs. I'm sorry, man. I don't know what you think you're doing. But if this country has been brought to its knees and is facing widespread mass eviction and 12 million people becoming destitute, then we can't just start giving money away to other people. America has to come first. Otherwise, America won't be around to help anybody. And you know, it's funny. When I say America first, I'm actually not a staunch nationalist, as many of you know. I do think there's a good argument for some foreign aid right now. But some of this stuff makes literally no sense. None at all. Here's the story from Kiro 7. 2 key federal unemployment programs expired early Sunday as Trump refused to sign a $900 billion aid package. The president continued to resist signing the measure, arguing that Congress needed to increase the size of relief checks from 600 to 2,000. The expanded unemployment benefits in the relief package affected more than 12 million Americans. Trump also criticized the $1.4 trillion government funding bill that was attached to the COVID relief legislation. You see how they do this? Trump rejected the COVID aid package. He rejected the whole thing. And maybe that was the right call. Are we going to just live under the boot of Democrats forever? Or are we going to stand up and say no? This is the problem. The Democrats are the one who shut down the economies in major key states, affecting massive swaths of the population of this country. They're still doing it, and they're arguing that they have to. In New York City, people who own restaurants are arguing it's against the science. Don't take it from me. The actual businesses in New York are saying the contribution to COVID infection rate is like 1.4%. It's minor. Why are they being shut down? And other areas of the economy which have higher infection rates are being ignored because Cuomo and de Blasio don't care. For one, I think they're spineless cowards who don't want to take responsibility. The other is I just think they're happy to do it because their budgets, many of these states were already failing. And now they have an excuse to be like, the federal government needs to bail us out. And they're you know what they're doing? It's like you got a little kid and he's like, I want ice cream. And the mom is like, you can't have ice cream. It's, I'll hold my breath. And now the kid's turning blue. And the mom's like, I'm not giving you ice cream. And the kid's going, it's like, you're hurting yourself. And they're doing it because they want to extract from you. Is it the fault of the red states that didn't lock down, whose economies are doing all right, that New York did, and that they should pay the bill for New York when New York goes against the science? What about when Cuomo put sick people into nursing homes? New York was the hardest hit. It is the fault of these people. They then come out and blame the Republicans for everything. I'm sick of it. It's trash. They say early Sunday, Trump retweeted a video that showed him complaining about the COVID-19 relief bill. You want to rag on Trump for his budget proposal? By all means, do so. But when he comes out and says no to this, then you can call him out and say, okay, fine, Trump, it's what you wanted. We'll cut it all out, right? No, because they want the same trash. I tell you, this is never going to end. It's going to keep happening. They're going to keep extracting value. Bitcoin's at what, like $27,000 right now? A month ago, it was at like 15. It is almost doubled. And I'll tell you why, man. There's a lot of reasons why we're seeing Bitcoin go up. People are flocking out of the US dollar because of this. The only option anyone sees is the mass printing of money. But what you got to understand about the money is that it is the oil for the engine, not the fuel. A lot of people don't understand, especially on the left. They think the money is the fuel. No, it lubricates the machine, allows the machine to churn. The fuel is the individual who works, and they're not right now. The economy is still mostly shut down, and they're making it worse. They're shutting down more. It will only get worse. New York has been completely destroyed. Okay, maybe a little hyperbolic, completely destroyed. It's funny when I see these uppity, well-to-do leftists who are walking around New York like everything's fine, people are eating food, and they ignore like central Brooklyn or the Lower East Side and places like that where things aren't going so well, and it is a ghost town, and people are being evicted like crazy, and then the mayor says, now's our chance to buy up the property. It's almost like RoboCop or some movie where the evil politician just, hires a bunch of, local hoodlums to destroy property so the value tanks and then they can buy it up at a cheap price. It's like an old 80s movie. That's how bad it is. But they're going to keep doing it. And I'll tell you one of the problems. It was Democrats who destroyed the economy. Trump's response is from the left. Imagine this. Donald Trump criticizing and attacking Democrats from the left. And they laughed about it. But Trump isn't wrong. And it's not necessarily from the left. It's more from a populist standpoint, but it's certainly not from the right. If you're talking about the right from a, free market position, Donald Trump is saying, get rid of the pork. And if you do, you can easily reduce the cost of the spending bill and you can increase the amount of money regular people get. Probably the right move because otherwise you have a bunch of people become homeless. But maybe the real right move should be for people who are facing mass eviction and small businesses. They need to just open. But it's crazy to think how terrified people in these cities are. My friends, we are faced with an even more serious problem than just COVID. We are faced with the problem of alternate worldviews, alternate realities. And it's not just about Trump. This is important. They like to say that you've got the pro-Trump cold and you got the anti-Trump orange man bad, whatever. No, listen. There are people in cities. Okay, I'll tell you this. Because, I live close enough to a city, but I'm kind of in the middle of, I'm pretty much in the middle of nowhere. I'll put it that way. But I'm not like hard rural, hours away from civilization. I'm close to some cities, close enough. I see people wearing masks while riding bikes through the woods. Like, what are you doing? There's no one around you. You're not going to get or give anything. If I ride past you, it's a split second. You don't got to wear a mask when you're riding your bike in the woods. I'm not talking about like a wooded area in the suburbs of a city. I'm talking about like I'm in the mountains and, I see people and I'm like, that's crazy. Most people don't do that. But in cities, these people are terrified. I had a conversation with some people who are in New York and talking about local businesses and how they should just open everything up. But the business owners are saying no one will show up. They're too scared. Democrats really figured out how to put the boot on someone's neck. I want to show you a couple things. All right. The UK has been hit with the worst recession in 300 years as country grapples with mutated COVID-19 strain. It's never going to end. So what do? Do we just lay down our swords, drop to our knees and say we surrender? Or do we recognize life comes with risks and we can't just give up and stop? People are going to lose their homes and everything will be destroyed. I guess that's where we're going because there's nothing you can do about it when people are terrified. I want to show you this. This is a tweet. This video right here. This person tweeted, this is for the COVIDiots that try to sound smart by constantly bringing up the survival rate as an excuse to be selfish. In it, you have a woman who is a nurse, it appears, wearing a mask, and she says something like this. It's got 1.2 million views. And she goes, I want to explain something to everybody who used survival rate as an excuse. If I told you I was going to give you millions upon millions of Skittles, and that 17,391,270 of those Skittles would make you sick and give you lingering health effects, and that 320,000 of them would kill you, would you still eat the Skittles? The stupidest argument ever made. And they do it all the time. I'm so sick of it. Feeding my family and protecting myself is not eating candy. Please. There's a big difference. A 0.1% risk. 0.1. Now that's significant compared to many other things. I mean, a lot of people have died. It's nightmarish. But my friends, this is a serious problem for us. First of all, to compare whether or not I get to live in my home and pay my rent or my mortgage, or for my business, keep my employees, on the job and have to lay people off. The idea that I have to shut my business down is equivalent to eating candy is stupid. I tell you what if I told you you were starving, and you were struggling to figure out what you were going to eat and what you were going to drink, and I said, I have many, many bottles of water, 330 million bottles of water, and you, my friend, are dehydrated. You have to drink water. You have no choice. This is not candy. This is not you deciding to go buy a bag of candy. This is water. You need it. Now, I'm sorry, but 1 in 1,000 of these bottles will kill you. Well, I think you'd probably be like, I'm going to die anyway. It's better than nothing. And I said, well, a good amount of them will actually make you sick. Yeah, well, what are my choices? Do I just lay down and do nothing? Or do I drink nasty water? Think about it this way. I'll give you a better example. Because you might still be thinking like, man, a lot of dirty water. Okay, I'll tell you what. If you were in the middle of the woods and there was nothing to drink and you found a pool of water, you would drink it. If you were in the desert, wandering around, desperate, and you found a pool of murky water, you would drink it. And you'd say, I might get sick, but it's better than the alternative. Now, what they're saying is, what if the government just takes your value away and then and then borrows against your? I'll tell you what. Here's a better analogy using what they're doing with the COVID relief bill. Imagine you're in the desert and there is a pool of water that's clean, and everybody's looking at it saying, okay, what do we do? And the Congress comes in and says, we're going to take 80% of this water and we're going to give it to those people in that city over there. And y'all can get a little bit. You're going to be like, bro, this is our water. We need this. No, we're going to give it away. And then Trump comes in and says, no, I'm not allowing you to give that water away right now. And then the Democrats go, it's the Republicans' fault. You're not getting any water. I suppose if people are on the verge of death and they need water, some is better than none. But to be held hostage like this is crazy. You know, I got to add, too, I'm really sick of this Skittles thing because it's been used by a bunch of identitarians forever. And I'm not talking about leftists. I'm talking about left and right. They say, like, what did the feminists do? If you had a bowl of Skittles that represents men and 1% of them was bad, would you eat the Skittles? It's like, dude, you're talking about human beings you have to interact with in your life. What are you going to do? Take 1 in 100 people and, like, lock them up? That's the stupidest thing ever. These people are nuts. But I'll tell you the bigger problem we face, my friends. And it's something I refer to as the scaling problem. It probably needs a better name, like something law or something. But the idea is, as the scale, as I'll put it this way, as volume increases, the tolerance for failure decreases. And this is a problem. People used to die at way higher rates way back in the day than they do now. Now we have a survival rate of 99.99%. Of the people who have died, they're mostly over the age of 70 with comorbidities, so that is not the general population. So if you really want to do that Skittles thing, we could be saying, like, if you were going to eat food and 0.01%, a 1 in, 10,000 chance that you actually, get sick or die. The scaling problem is serious. It is. When you look at 100 people, there's an illness. And 1 person dies. That's 1%. Most people are going to be like, only 1 person died. I mean, it's horrifying. It's sad. This person died, but it was 1 person. Things are okay. What if you have 100,000 people and 1,000 people die? Well, then everyone starts seeing all these stories of death nonstop, and they start panicking and freaking out. What happens if you have 330 million people and 330,000 die? All of a sudden, it's all over the news. Videos of people in the hospital intubated. You're inundated over and over and over again with these images. But the percentage has not changed. As volume increases in a system, the tolerance for failure decreases. People will not accept it. Therein lies a big problem. Because population is going to keep increasing, and then we're going to keep hearing more and more stories. And I'll tell you this: it goes the same way with the vaccine. And I'll give you this final point. If you have a vaccine given to 100 people and 1 person gets sick, people might be like, "Man, I don't know about that. That's freaky." Like, I don't know. And they get worried. But 99% of people, most people were fine. Like, it was only one person. Chill. You hear one story. It's not about percentage. It's about what you hear and what scares you. You hear in the news, a man had an allergic reaction to the vaccine, but everybody else in the trial was fine. They're going to be like, it was one guy. What happens when you have, 1 million people get the vaccine? And then you have, once again, 1%. Now the stories are everywhere about the dangers of the vaccine. You see people in videos saying, I can't believe it. There's one video going viral, a woman who got Bell's palsy, and she's freaking out. She's like, and I'm not trying to be mean. Like, she's panicked, her face, you can see it. And I get it. But this is the scaling problem. As volume in a system increases, tolerance for failure decreases. As more people receive iPhones, the tolerance for broken iPhones goes down. As more people get sick, the tolerance for death goes down. You see the point? It's information. People are getting freaked out by this. And as this problem persists, there will be criminals in government exploiting it. So look, I know many of you may be desperate and need this money. So maybe Trump should just sign it. But my fear then, and this is a luxury that I have, is that you're all being held hostage. I mean, we all are. My business is to an extent isolated from all of this, to an extent. But people got to realize too, when the lockdown first started and they shut down businesses, my business took like a 70% hit, and it put me in the red for about a month. And this is because everything I do is dependent upon ad rates. Ad rates are mostly driven by small businesses advertising their restaurants and their stores and things like that. When you can't go shopping, when everything's shut down, people don't buy ads. When the businesses go, everyone goes around it. So I may be, like we're on the Titanic, and I may be like sitting on like one of the higher decks. I'm not trying to be callous or brag, but the ship sinking is bad for everybody. And so maybe you just do the package, give away trillions of our dollars, and then the people get a pittance. Or maybe we hold out and we make demands of Congress. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 1 p.m. Thanks for hanging out, and I will see you all then on this channel.